Silent Hill 2 is not only one of the best horror games, but rather one of the best video games of all time. So when Konami announced during their Silent Hill transmission that it was finally getting a remake, I was pretty hyped. I was jumping up and down screaming, finally, Konami, you're doing something right. Now, 1 year later, I'm far less excited for Silent Hill 2 Remake. Don't get me wrong, I still want this game to do well. I really do. The future of the Silent Hill franchise depends on the success of this game. Unfortunately though, ever since the announcement of Silent Hill 2, we also were treated to multiple red flags. So I'm still sitting here praying that this game turns out to be one of the biggest surprises of 2024. I'm trying to manage my expectations. And on today's video, I kind of want to vent to you guys. Go over why I'm really worried about Silent Hill 2 and why I think there is a good possibility that this game is not going to be the remake that we wanted. Before that though, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for more ranking videos like this one, as well as hitting that like button if you enjoyed today's topic. Anyway, my name is Ruben with Nerdspace Games, and this is my 5 biggest reasons why I'm concerned about Silent Hill 2 Remake. Let's get it. Number 1, no gameplay, no new trailers, or any updates at all. It's hard to believe that Silent Hill 2 was announced over a year ago, and even to this day, we've only seen one trailer for the game. Yet the game was supposed to come out in 2023, and only recently are we starting to see reports of Silent Hill 2 getting a March release date. When you take a look at some of the biggest games releasing around the same time, most of them already have shown us gameplay in multiple trailers. However, Konami and Bloober Team refused to comment on this game in any capacity. The one-time Bloober Team CEO tried to give us some insight on the progress of the game. They immediately backpedaled and have been quiet ever since then. And while the trailer last year was great as it revealed some key moments of Silent Hill 2, the fact is that there wasn't a single bit of gameplay in that trailer. Granted, that's not uncommon for a game's first reveal, but when you fast forward to a year later and there is still no gameplay shown at all, then yeah, the fans start to doubt the game completely, especially with us getting closer to the release date. But even if there hasn't been any gameplay revealed to us, you would think at the very least that Konami could give us some sort of updates or news on the development of the game. Yet here we stand around speculating that Konami will show up at the next big gaming event to give us something. Summer Game Fest, Gamescom, State of Play, Tokyo Game Show. We keep hoping that we'll finally get some updates and news on this at each of these events, only to leave disappointed once again with Konami. Maybe we'll get it at the Game Awards, who knows? But it's really getting to the point where I actually believe that Konami doesn't have faith in the project anymore. Maybe Bloober Team showed them what they have done so far and Konami was like, nah, not enough predatory microtransactions. Back to the drawing board, Bloober Team. That honestly is highly possible. Speaking of god-awful microtransactions, Silent Hill Ascension is officially the first release content of Silent Hill in a really long time. The last time we saw a Silent Hill game release was PT back in 2014, and even then, that was just a demo for a game that never came out. The Silent Hill transmission, however, announced a ton of projects that were in the works using the Silent Hill IP. One of which was Silent Hill Ascension, developed by Genvid. This game is a streaming televised event in which the viewers vote on different choices that lead up to different outcomes. Somewhat stealing the concept from Supermassive's IPs like Until Dawn and The Quarry, the idea was that nobody, not even Konami themselves, knew how things would play out. Well, Konami did what it always did and used the opportunity as the ultimate cash grab. Not only did they sneak in a ton of microtransactions like random trauma emojis, Konami even monetized the power to vote. Basically, the more money you were willing to pay, the more voting power you had. Yeah, that's the most fucked up political bullshit that I have ever seen in a video game. A game, which I don't think it should even be called a game, but a game that relies on making choices completely fucks that main mechanic up by saying screw your vote if you don't give me money. So why does this spinoff have anything to do with Silent Hill 2 Remake's development? Because if Silent Hill 2 Ascension, a game that was supposed to be the first start of the revival of the Silent Hill franchise, is this bad with microtransactions and seems to only care about how much money Konami can get from its loyal fan base, then how can I have any faith in the fact that Silent Hill 2 won't do the same thing? Luckily, one thing Silent Hill 2 does have going for it is that it's not a free-to-play game. It will probably have a $70 price tag, but that's still better than some of the microtransactions we see Silent Hill Ascension do. I'm not defending Silent Hill Ascension, by the way, but it's a free-to-play game or show or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Silent Hill 2 better not pull this shit though. Also, I like to think a studio like Bloober Team wouldn't sign up for something like that, but honestly, who knows? So let's talk about Bloober Team actually. For some people, the biggest concern they have about Silent Hill 2 Remake is the team behind it. I guess I want to start by saying that I don't hate Bloober Team as much as most people do. Bloober Team is a talented studio in my opinion. They have been great about developing worlds and environments that fit the psychological horror atmosphere. Layers of Fear is one of the better psychological horror games that I've played in a really long time. And Medium, while I do think the game was not great, still did a decent job at establishing a unique atmosphere that felt perfect for the genre. So I have no doubt in my mind that Bloober Team can knock it out of the park when it comes to rebuilding the world of Silent Hill. And while I don't trust Bloober Team to build up a great story after seeing what they've done with other games, the saving grace there is that they don't need to develop an original story. Silent Hill 2's original game is already delivering a near perfect story for them. All they have to do is make sure they do a good job of staying loyal to the source material. My real lack of faith in Bloober Team is regarding the gameplay of Silent Hill 2. The closest we've seen to Bloober Team doing something similar to the gameplay of Silent Hill 2 is with the Medium. And let's face it, the gameplay was probably the worst part of the game. I feel like this studio doesn't know how to deliver the survival horror mechanics of what is needed for a game like Silent Hill 2. Limited resources, unique boss fights, and the combat of a survival horror game is something that we haven't seen Bloober Team nail yet. Do I think they can do it? Absolutely. We've seen indie studios pull off some really great survival horror gameplay. They just have to be willing to go outside of what they are used to. Like I said, Bloober Team has a lot of the skills needed to pull off a Silent Hill game. They just haven't proved that they can handle the combat and the gameplay needed for a game like Silent Hill. The only opportunity they had to prove to us that they were capable of this was with the Medium, and they absolutely failed. So hopefully they prove to all of us that we're wrong. But for now, my faith in them in delivering us a satisfying gameplay for Silent Hill 2 is probably on the same level as my faith in Konami owning the rights of the Silent Hill IP. Oh, and about that faith in Konami. While my faith in Bloober Team isn't exactly the greatest, my faith in Konami's ownership of the Silent Hill IP is probably even worse. Konami has owned the rights to Silent Hill ever since the first game back in 1999. Funny enough, I don't think there was ever a time where Konami actually respected the IP despite being the ones that created it. The original Silent Hill game was a chance for Konami to cash in on the horror genre that was on the rise. Resident Evil and Alone in the Dark proved that this new survival horror genre was something that fans were really eating up. The problem is that Konami didn't know how to go about it. Team Silent was put in charge of developing this game, but there was no real direction. And while the original Silent Hill game is still one of the best in the franchise, the fact is that the game was made in a rush with some odd choices that even Team Silent weren't confident in. The final result was a game with clunky controls even for classic survival horror standards, lackluster visuals, and a story that felt all over the place. Funny enough, Silent Hill was never supposed to be a success. Team Silent was full of team members from other failed projects that Konami had plans to depart with following Silent Hill's release. However, Silent Hill surprised everyone when the game was a massive success. This led to the team developing Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3, and even Silent Hill 4. Skipping ahead to today, Konami still hasn't shown any appreciation or respect for its IP. Another IP owned by Konami is Metal Gear Solid. This beloved franchise has seen many different games. However, similar to what happened with Silent Hill post Silent Hill 4, Konami decided it wanted to go a different direction, which ultimately ruined the franchise. This destroyed any trust in Konami that fans had for both Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill. But Konami managed to once again regain its trust from fans with some of the big announcements within the last year. Silent Hill 2 was getting a much demanded remake. Metal Gear Solid 3 was getting a remake. Multiple Silent Hill projects were in the works. And Konami announced that an HD collection of every Metal Gear Solid game was coming. This had fans of both franchises hyped once again after so long. Unfortunately, the hype didn't last long. Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake was revealed to be using all of the same voice acting from the original game in an effort to cut costs. The HD collection of Metal Gear Volume 1 turned out to be a mess, as most versions of the games were worse or at best the same quality of its initial release. And the first Silent Hill game that we got was Silent Hill Ascension, and we already covered on how that went. Despite Konami getting the trust back from its fans, it seems they still haven't learned any lessons. It's really sad that a company like Konami owns some of our favorite IPs out there. Konami just continues to shit on everybody with each passing day, and eventually the fans just might give up completely. Konami needs a win here with Silent Hill 2 Remake and Metal Gear Solid Delta. They need to do right by the fans here. If not, Konami could lose their most loyal fan base forever. Unfortunately, the mistakes that Konami has made recently are mistakes that we've seen them make multiple times in the past. It's sad, but history continues to repeat itself with Silent Hill. Earlier in this video, I mentioned how Konami never really cared about the Silent Hill IP, and that even the team behind the original games were made up of people from failed projects within the company. With the success of the OG Silent Hill game, we saw 3 sequels made by the same team, all of which are met with positive reception. with Silent Hill 4 being the most negative of the bunch, of course. So any intelligent studio will continue to allow this team to do whatever they have been doing. Unfortunately, Konami is not like most studios. Apparently, they wanted to change the style of the Silent Hill games to match the appeal of Western audiences. This is what started the downfall of the franchise, as it started to take the shape of something that was unrecognizable for the Silent Hill IP. From there, Konami started to hand out the IP like candy to random developers. Climax Studios, Double Helix Games, Vatra Games, WayForward Technologies are just a few random studios that had a hold of the Silent Hill IP. While some were better than others, most completely butchered the series with awful practices and even destroyed some major canon plot lines of previous Silent Hill games. This was the last straw for fans. The Silent Hill IP died for years following this awful age of Silent Hill games. Then in 2022, we saw Konami bring back the series with a bang at the Silent Hill transmission. This event announced not only one but multiple Silent Hill games. Hell, even a new Silent Hill movie was announced. Unfortunately, not many of us recognized the pattern that Konami was doomed to follow. Most of us were blinded by the sudden return of the Silent Hill IP and Silent Hill 2 Remake that we just didn't stop and think about what Konami was doing here. Because once again, Konami was handing out the Silent Hill IP to multiple different studios. Bloober Team would work on Silent Hill 2 Remake. Genvid would be the studio behind the Silent Hill Ascension streaming event. Other studios were getting in on the Silent Hill IP. Is Konami repeating the same mistakes that they made all of those years ago? Last time we saw the IP spread to so many different studios, it ended up ending the franchise and it died for many years. Well, I like to believe that this time is going to be different. I really want to believe that. But I gotta admit, unfortunately, our first taste of what it looks like with Silent Hill Ascension is not good. It tastes bitter, my friends. But I'm going to continue to have hope for Silent Hill 2. I need this game to be a success. I want this game to do well, but only if Bloober Team and Konami give us what we want. No strings attached. No god-awful predatory microtransactions. Give us a good survival horror game that dives into that psychological horror that I love. Alan Wake 2 showed us what it can look like in the modern age. I need Silent Hill 2 Remake to replicate that. Then, if and only if it does, I need it to do well. To prove to Konami that if they take care of the fan base, then the fans will take care of them. The Silent Hill games are some of my favorite games of all time. Silent Hill 2 Remake is the last opportunity that Konami has to save this franchise and revive it from the dead. Ascension is not what we wanted, and I don't have a ton of faith in Townfall or Silent Hill F either. And while I do have some hope, I'm more worried for the Silent Hill IP than I have ever been before. Please, Konami, Bloober Team, don't fuck this up. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more survival horror content. Also, hit that like button. But as always, I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Nerd Space Games. Take care.